Hello and welcome to our series of videos where we're going to look more in depth at some tanks. In particular, we're concentrating on the first series in the British range of tanks. We're here located at the fantastic Bovington Tank Museum. Named after Britain's Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, the Churchill first appeared in 1941. However, to start with, it was absolutely full of mechanical problems. And it wasn't until the Mark VII came around in around about 1943 that a lot of these problems were ironed out. This particular one, as we'll see later on, is actually the crocodile version, i.e. the flamethrower version. The great thing about the Churchill is you'll see the suspension, it was a very, very distinctive suspension on the Churchill, which we'll look at a bit later on. The armour on the Churchill was actually thicker than that of the Tiger, making it an incredibly strong vehicle with 152mm. However, this did obviously come at a cost, and it made the vehicle very, very slow, with a top speed of around about 15 miles an hour. That said, however, it did have an incredible ability to climb, and this was very apparent in the conflict in Italy. Unlike a lot of tanks, the Churchill actually had a crew of 5. On the exterior of the vehicle then, we have a closer look. You've obviously got the main armament. In this particular case, it's the 75mm gun. Just to the right of the main armament, you can also see quite clearly the first of what would have been 2 7.62mm machine guns. Because we've already determined this was the crocodile version of the Churchill, the other 7.62mm machine gun, which was bow mounted, is now replaced with the flamethrower. We're now on top of the Churchill, having a brief look at the turret. The great thing about the Churchill, of course, was it's a very, very simple design. As you can see from the turret itself, there's not actually a lot on there when you compare it, especially to some of the modern main battle tanks you'll see today. If you start at the front there and we work our way back, very, very clearly you can see the commander's hatch located to the left-hand side, and also the loader's or the operator's hatch located to the right-hand side. Again, a noticeable difference if you have a look at a lot of the other main battle tanks that you'll see around is the size of these hatches. They are actually particularly small. Working our way backwards, you can see quite clearly the TUAMs and the RFATs that were used in the radio installation. Working our way backwards then, we then come to the transmission part of the Churchill. You can see there very clearly on the back we've got 2 actual mesh protective covers surrounding the engines. The engines themselves developed they were 21-litre engines, 12-cylinder, and they developed 350 horsepower. And as we swoop back, you can see there very clearly, located on the back of here, is the trailer, which held the fuel for that. The flamethrower itself, the operator caused the spark, which ignited a petrol spray. And this in turn ignited flame fuel, which obviously was projected from the front of the vehicle. The problem, of course, with the flamethrower tank was, although being extremely terrifying to the enemy, it was also very dangerous for the crew located inside. The petroleum fuel itself was very, very similar to that of napalm. One of the most distinctive things about the Churchill is, of course, the suspension, which is unlike any other tank that you'll see. The road wheels themselves, we've got a total of 44 road wheels arranged on 22 separate bogies. And you can see quite clearly that each one of these bogies has the suspension arm or the link arm. Servicing of these was done via a grease nipple, which you can see on there, and each one of the bogies has an individual grease nipple. We've now moved inside the turret of the Churchill. For the more observant amongst you, this is not actually the Churchill we were looking at just now on the outside. This is the Avery version. The reason we use the interior of this is purely because here in the Tank Museum in Bovington, the interior apparently is a lot better condition than the gun tank that we've just looked at. You can see the driver's compartment, it's actually quite roomy. Located directly above me in the closed position at the moment is the driver's hatch, and the seat currently is in the fully dropped down position, which makes it quite comfy for driving. Located in front of me are the controls for driving, and you can see, quite unusually for many tank designs, you've actually got a tiller or steering lever here which controls it, and just to the left of that was the parking brake or the handbrake. Directly in front of the driver was the driver's episcope or periscope, and to the right of that was the very, very simple control panel. A few of the key controls that are on there. On the top left you've got a speedo, to the right of that you've got a fuse box. Directly beneath the speedo you have the tachometer, and beneath that is a voltage gauge to indicate obviously how much charge was actually in the batteries. To the right of the temperature gauges is the petrol indicator. And finally, on the right hand side, just there I'm showing you at the moment, is the master switch. Instead of the gun fitted, we now have, we can see the breech directly in front of us, the 290mm mortar. Of course, the Anfrey came into its own really on D-Day when the purpose of the 290mm mortar was to destroy pillboxes or fortifications. The only other things that are actually quite apparent in the turret at the moment are the traverse hand wheel, and directly above the traverse hand wheel you can see one of the periscopes or the episcopes, obviously not giving the greatest field of view at all.